All right, let's get right into it. You know, the end times, it's a topic that's fascinated people forever, and honestly, it's confused a lot of us too. But there's this one picture that just sticks in your mind, right? The idea of being left behind. Well, today we're going to dig into a theological argument that poses a really interesting question. What if this whole huge idea, what if it all comes down to just a couple of words that maybe, just maybe, we've been getting backwards?
And really, it all boils down to this. Are we talking about this moment where believers just get beamed up, whisked off the planet? Or is there something else going on entirely? Something maybe a little more surprising. The source material we're looking at today says, hey, hold on. It's time to get granular and really look at the details.
So here's how we're going to tackle this. First, we'll touch on the left behind idea we all know from pop culture. Then, we'll look at the popular view that fuels it. After that, it's time to go back to the source texts for a totally different take. And finally, we'll wrap up with why any of this really matters in the first place.
All right, first things first. Where do most of us even get our ideas about the end of the world? I mean, let's be real. It's probably less from dusty old books and a lot more from the movie theater.
I mean, this whole idea has just exploded into pop culture. You know exactly what I'm talking about, right? The empty clothes, the cars suddenly careening off the road, planes just dropping out of the sky. It's this super dramatic, really powerful image of a rapture. And for a lot of people, religious or not, that's become the default setting for how this all goes down.
Okay, so where did this super popular idea even come from? Well, it's actually tied to a very specific, and you might be surprised to hear, a pretty modern way of thinking about theology. Let's dig into that framework.
Okay, the fancy term for it is Dispensational Premillennialism. Yeah, I know it's a total mouthful. But all you really need to know is that it's a system that lays out a very specific step-by-step timeline for the future. And a really, really key part of that timeline is this secret rapture of believers. It's the event that kicks the whole thing off right before this period of major global trouble.
Now, here's where it gets really interesting, and this comes straight from our source material. The argument is that this whole system, this popular timeline, it isn't something that's been around forever. It's not some ancient original belief. It's actually a pretty recent interpretation, something that really took off and got popular back in the 19th century.
So the timeline is everything in this view. It goes like this. Step 1, the rapture happens. The church is gone. Step 2, what follows is 7 years of really intense suffering on earth, called the tribulation. And then, step 3, after all that, Christ returns for a 1,000-year reign. You have to understand, this order of events is absolutely critical to this popular view.
Okay, so now we get to the real meat of the argument from our source. The idea is, if we want to understand what's really being said, we need to pause the Hollywood version, set aside the popular timelines for a second, and get super granular. We have to go back to the source texts themselves. This is where the real investigation starts.
In the main piece of evidence, the central text is a super famous teaching from Jesus called the Olivet Discourse. You can find it in 3 different spots in the New Testament, Matthew, Mark, and Luke. And in this teaching, Jesus is talking directly about some pretty heavy stuff, future events, his return, that kind of thing.
And right here, this is the verse. This is ground zero for the whole debate. One will be taken and one left. For a lot of people, this little line from Matthew is the proof text for the rapture. Taken means you're saved, you're going to heaven. Left means you're left behind to face the music. But, and this is the big but, the source we're looking at today asks a really simple but powerful question. Is that what those words actually meant back then in their original context?
And that question leads us right here to the absolute bombshell of this analysis. The source material argues that the popular view hasn't just misunderstood these words, it's gotten them completely backwards. It's flipped the meaning of taken and left on its head.
Okay, look at this. This slide is everything. On one side, you have the popular view we all know. Being taken is good. It means you're saved. Being left is bad. You're abandoned. Simple enough. But now look at the other side, the interpretation from our source. It's the complete opposite. It argues that in the context of the Bible, being taken actually means being taken away in judgment. And being left behind? Well, that's the good thing. It means you're the one who's preserved, the one who gets to inherit the earth. So where do they get this radical idea? Well, the source points to a clue Jesus gives just a few sentences before he says, one will be taken, one left. He brings up the story of Noah and the flood, and he asks his listeners to think about it. In the flood, who was taken? It was the wicked, right? They were taken away by the water. So who was left? Noah's family. They were left behind to start over. The argument is that this story, which is the immediate context,
is the key to unlocking what taken and left really mean.
Okay, so we've been deep in the weeds of theology here. But why does any of this matter? I mean, who cares who gets taken or left? Well, this is where it gets really practical. Because this isn't just some intellectual exercise about the future. According to the source, what you believe about the end times dramatically changes how you live right here, right now.
Think about it this way. If your main goal is just to escape Earth, your mission is going to look one way. But if you believe your goal is to inherit, to restore, and to take care of the Earth, well, that creates a completely different mission, doesn't it?
And this quote really nails it. Is the whole point just to, I don't know, hold on tight and wait for the escape plan to kick in? Or is the point to be part of a bigger, victorious mission of making things new? The source is basically saying these are two totally different visions for the future, and they create two totally different kinds of people in the present.
So, we'll leave you with this to chew on. No matter where you land on all the theological details, the source material pushes us to ask a much bigger question, one that really applies to anyone. How does your vision of the future, whatever that vision is, define your mission right now, today? Is it a story about escape, or is it a story about inheritance? Because how you answer that, well, it might just change everything.